So Joe Biden is running into some fundraising problems, but lucky for him, he has got some friends, some very, very wealthy friends that are now setting up a super PAC. So now the reason, of course, is that his fundraising has fallen way behind both Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, as well as Donald Trump. By the way, he's raising lots of money as well. And there is some significant concern that he will not be able to finish out the primary, that he will not be able to afford to continue to run. So now, look, that's kind of a bold thing to say, considering how Joe Biden still leads in national polls. But look, I base this on fundraising numbers, his past primary performances, and of course, how worried the Democratic establishment is. And so, look, you've got people talking about jumping into the race. Michael Bloomberg, who was a billionaire, instead of financing the race, by the way, Bloomberg says, well, I might jump in. You have other people talking about jumping in. You know, names like Michelle Obama are being floated. And even, yes, Hillary Clinton. Yikes. So that kind of shows you how his campaign is at this point kind of a zombie, like a walking corpse. Okay. So now he knows it. Biden does, because he's aware of his fundraising numbers, which is why in this last ditch effort, Biden's corporate supporters are jumping to the rescue to create a brand new super PAC. So now let me go to a report here in Bloomberg. He said, they said, with this move, Biden has reversed a position from earlier this year when he rejected support from super PACs. Now, that a lot of Democratic candidates, thanks to, of course, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, said, we're not going to take corporate money. Now, everyone else, basically everyone who has said that, has backtracked on that. In fact, newest story here, along with Joe Biden, you have Andrew Yang, who's saying, I'm okay with super PACs. And then you had, of course, Elizabeth Warren, who said that she would take corporate money or PAC money in the general election. So that's not good, right? So the only one here that doesn't take corporate PAC money, will never take super PAC money, is, of course, Senator Bernie Sanders. So now, let me go here to the article in The Intercept, written by Lee Fong. So now he wrote, though Biden has pledged not to take contributions from registered lobbyists, the prohibition appears not to apply to big dollar organizers of his super PAC. Among the individuals involved with the effort are several lobbyists for leading corporations and even foreign governments. So now let me give you some examples. One of them is Larry Raske. Now, Larry Raske is one of the people that are involved with the super PAC and is the founder of lobbying firm Raske Partners. Raske Partners currently is registered to lobby on behalf of Raytheon, Harvard Pilgrim Healthcare, and the Republic of Azerbaijan, as well as other clients. So that's a lobbying firm. So now you also have Steve Shale. Steve Shale is a former campaign strategist for the Obama administration, and he's a registered state lobbyist with Cardenas Partners. Cardenas Partners, of course, is a Florida lobbying firm founded by former Jeb Bush advisor Al Cardenas. Now, Shale's current client list includes the Florida Hospital Association, JetBlue Airways, State Farm Insurance, Walt Disney Parks, AT&T, and the Associated Industries of Florida. So you've got all these, lobbying firms that are lining up that represent all these large corporate interests that are now pitching in, of course, to help Joe Biden. And as The Intercept has reported, despite Biden's promise to reject lobbyist money, his campaign, launched with a fundraiser, hosted at the home of Comcast chief lobbyist. And his political action committee has a long record of accepting lobbyist money. Oops. So much for that promise, right? And now, like I said, there's a long list of corporate donors that are now behind the super PAC. Now, one of the central figures here is Bernard Schwartz. Now, Bernard Schwartz is a wealthy financier who has organized dinners with prominent centrist Democrats, meeting with Pete Buttigieg, for example, in order to prevent Bernie Sanders from gaining the Democratic nomination. Now, he is in talks to fund that new super PAC. Now, Schwartz is known, according to The Intercept, for deep-pocketed donations. And in 2016 alone, Schwartz, through his foundation, gave $1 million to the centrist think tank Third Way. Now, the reason, of course, that they're going to super PACs and large donations is because Joe Biden has no grassroots support. His campaign, according to the most recent filings, has about $8.9 million cash on hand. Bernie Sanders, to compare, his campaign has $33 million cash on hand, and Senator Elizabeth Warren has about $25 million. So Bernie Sanders, when it comes to the money race, is leading everyone, and why that is not bigger news, I have no idea. Maybe there's an establishment media blackout on Bernie Sanders. Could be. Now, Bernie Sanders, by the way, he takes no corporate money. He's outraised essentially everyone, and he's done so by not taking big corporate money. In fact, unlike Sanders, Biden relies on a relatively small pool of elite donors who have already maxed out with $2,700 donations. Bernie Sanders has $1.5 million donors, and the great majority of them will never max out. And he continues to get more and more donors. So it's not hard to see that when you don't have super PACs, this is a gigantic advantage for Bernie Sanders over Biden. Not only is it a big money advantage, it's also an optical advantage. Bernie Sanders can say, look, I've raised money from regular working class people, and I'll give you that breakdown in a minute. Whereas, where's Joe Biden getting his money? Large corporate donors, which of course he is going to serve those donors. Now, ironically, Joe Biden pointed out the problem in taking corporate money or large donations. This was during a fundraiser. Quote, it's human nature if you, Lynn, bundle $250,000 for me, all legal, and then you call me after I'm elected and say, Joe, I'd like to talk to you about something. You didn't buy me, but as a human, but it's human nature. You help me. I'm going to say, sure, Lynn, come on in. And he added that the front of the line is always filled with people whose pockets are filled. Meaning that, look, if you give me money, of course you're going to be at the front of the line. Well, these corporations and these large donors and these bundlers as well, they're giving me large donations. So, of course, I'm going to serve their interests first. But you haven't bought me, though. Oh, no, you didn't buy me. No, you're just at the front of the line. Come on, really? Does anybody believe that? That doesn't sound like helping a candidate. It sounds like an auction. Because that's exactly what this is. So here's the thing, right? The American people are actually really tired of lobbyists and special interests that are buying our politicians. Joe Biden is going this route because everybody knows he works for special interests. That's why he doesn't have grassroots funding. That's why he doesn't have small donors. That's why his major donations have dried up, because he's got that small pool of people who have already maxed out their donations. So where does he have to go now? The super PACs, corporate lobbyists. That's where he has to go. Independent expenditures. So, look, remember, and this is the reason why he's getting all those donors, these large donors, is because he told them that nothing would fundamentally change with him in charge. The donors love that. Why? Because they got rich off the status quo. So they don't want things to change. They don't want Americans to get health care. No. They think the system is fine the way it is because they get to make money off that system. But you know who didn't do well in that time? The 99%. And that's who is funding Bernie Sanders. In fact, according to campaign filings, Sanders is the top recipient of donations among farmers, servers, social workers, retail workers, like people from Amazon, for example, photographers, construction workers, truckers, nurses, drivers, and teachers. In fact, the top contributor to Bernie Sanders by job, by occupation, are teachers. That's the working class of America. That is who Bernie Sanders is going to represent, because that is who's funding Bernie Sanders. It's almost as if they want to give to the people who actually do want to represent them and not someone who represents the big donors. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a patreon.com/TYTNation set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent, progressive media.